I am back today discussing the nakshatras with you, and it's a very beautiful nakshatra that I want to discuss today. It is known as Punarvasu. And Punarvasu, if you ask me, is a deeply enigmatic energy, okay? A very mysterious nakshatra, signifying the interaction of the contradictory, okay, of the polarities, the contradictory, the thesis, the antithesis, and the synthesis. Okay, Punarvasu is known as the star of revival, and it brings a much needed relief after the destruction and the turbulence of Ardra Nakshatra. Okay, I've explained to you the last Nakshatra video that I did was Ardra Nakshatra. So please go through that video. Punarvasu, the star of renewal or the star of revival, brings forward the ray of light that is needed to dispel the darkness of Ardra, right? It is the return of light, Punarvasu, the return of light, okay? And Punarvasu spans two signs. This is, of course, Vedic astrology, sidereal calculations, okay? So it spans from Gemini 20 degrees to Cancer 3 degrees 20 minutes, okay? And so of course it's at a cuspal place, right? So that if the moon, if the birth moon in Punarvasu is in the cusp from Gemini to Cancer, then this can cause a sort of a mental turbulence or a mental imbalance of sorts, okay? Now, I've explained to you how each nakshatra is broken up into four padas, okay? And each pada has its own motivation, artha, kama, dharma, moksha, okay? So, in Punarvasu, uh, we begin, thank you, Luca. So in Punarvasu, we begin the journey. The first Navamsa is Aries Navamsa, okay? And in Aries, we know that the sun is exalted and Saturn is debilitated, right? In the first Navamsa, that is Aries Navamsa. The second Navamsa is Taurus Navamsa. Taurus, we know that the moon is exalted and Mars is debilitated. And then we have the Gemini Navamsa, which has Rahu exalted and Ketu debilitated. And the last Navamsa is Cancer Navamsa. Okay, we have Jupiter exalted, right? Now, when we break up a nakshatra into the four padas, it gives us a more complex understanding, because say when we talk about pada 1 and we are talking about the martial side of Punarvasu, here we are talking about action, we are talking about adventure, we are talking about movement. In fact, a lot of astrologers, especially people who write astrology books, have their sun placed in Punarvasu Padawan. So, that is quite interesting. I'll get to that later. But a lot of astrologers and Vedic as well as Western astrologers, a lot of them with their sun, of course the sun here is what I speak of, sun in Punarvasu Pada 1 have produced a tremendous corpus of work or a body of work, written work on astrology. So of course Punarvasu, again sun in Punarvasu Pada 1, would signify that you are a great astrologer. Now, the ruling planet of Punarvasu is Jupiter or Brihaspati, right? And when we talk about Punarvasu, we are talking about some of the significations of Jupiter, because it is the ruling planet. It's not the deity is Aditi, I'll get to that. But according to Parashara's Vimshotri Dasha, each planet has rules a particular nakshatra. So when we talk about Jupiter, Jupiter rules Punarvasu, right? Now, some of the significations here that I speak about is children. Punarvasu is deeply connected to children, rich, richness, accumulating richness, creating richness, education, religion, sacrifices. Now, of course, we don't think of Jupiter as sacrifice, but when we think of the Piscean energy of surrender, when we think of the Christ consciousness of Jupiter, we cannot not think about the sacrificial aspect of Jupiter. There is a deep, profound surrender in sacrifice that Jupiter teaches us through Punarvasu. Okay? Reputation, building one's reputation. Okay? Building one's reputation. uh, Creating a reputation with people of high repute, like kingly people. That's Jupiter. He is the minister of the gods. He's the teacher of the gods, Brihaspati, right? Then we have household property, of course, assets of all kinds. Gold, Jupiter rules gold. Sun. So there's Punarvasu people love gold, by the way. They love gold. They love fine clothes, luxurious, beautiful clothes. Punarvasu people. Uh, Sons. Many sons are born in Punarvasu, especially if Punarvasu happens to be a fifth house, or if your fifth house lord is well placed in Punarvasu, you are possibly going to have many sons. All right. Nice apparels, like I spoke about, nice clothing, uh, conveyance. Okay, conveyance. Ministership. I said Jupiter is the minister of the gods, so of course, ministership, political careers. Um, all this is very important for Punarvasu. These karakas or significators, planners, people who plan cities, people who plan investments, all of that. Philosophy. Now, one of the best ways of purification in Punarvasu is through Om chanting. So, how do you do Om chanting? Is longer than the O. Okay, so Om chanting is very, very powerful for purification of Punarvasu natives, right? Especially if you have that Jupiter in place, or say Punarvasu falls in your 8th house, or Punarvasu falls in that 12th house, and stuff like that. Okay, now teaching, of course, Jupiter is a teacher, so teaching is something Punarvasu people can excel at. Teaching all kinds of online courses as well, of course, not just the conventional way of teaching. Now, motivation of Punarvasu is artha, right? Again, the Sanatan Dharma has these four principles, Artha, Kama, Dharma, Moksha. Artha is financial gain. Kama is desires of all kinds. Dharma is the right code of conduct. People think Dharma is religion, but Dharma is not religion. Dharma is the right code of conduct. And moksha is of course nirvana, or ultimate liberation from all bondage. So, Sanatan Dharma, it divides everything into these four stages. So, the motivation for Punarvasu is artha. It is geared towards financial prosperity. So, we know Jupiter is about abundance, right? Jupiter is definitely about abundance. So, here we have Jupiter striving for abundance, but in a sattvic manner. Why? I'll get to that. The orientation is Tiryanga Mukha. Okay, that means forward looking, right? Gana is Deva Gana, Guna is Sattva, but Gana is Deva Gana. Each nakshatra is divided into Rakshas Gana, Deva Gana, and of course Manushya Gana. So Gana here is Deva Gana, so that means they have god-like characteristics. Okay, very interesting, because the caste is Vaishya or merchant. So, businessmen of Punarvasu are possibly the most ethical businessmen out there. Right. Quality is movable, so it's quickly adaptable, quickly changeable, movable. Caste, as I said, is Vishya or merchant, the merchant class, right? So trading, accumulation of wealth, growing wealth, all of this is important to Punarvasu. And Guna is Sattva. So again, we have merchant class, but godlike merchant class expression in Punarvasu. The most ethical of businessmen, actually, right? Now, the Shakti is Vasitva Shakti, right? Vasitva Prapana Shakti. That means the Shakti to gain, the power to gain, the power to receive. So, if unless you have an afflicted Jupiter, or you have, Punarvasu in one of the Dushtasthanas, you are ready to receive from the universe if you have prominent placements in Punarvasu, right? If it's an important nakshatra for you. Now we have the animal totem is female cat. Okay, the male cat is Ashlesha Nakshatra, whereas the female cat is Punarvasu. Body part is fingers and nose, right? So it's very interesting that the primordial goddess or Aditi, who is actually the deity of Punarvasu, can be propitiated through mudras. I will explain that later on, but see how why mudras, because here you are using, what are nyasas and mudras, a very important part of puja, a ritual worship, a ceremonial worship. So here we can successfully use mudras to connect to the goddess. Okay, you may call her by whatever name, but she is the primordial feminine. I will explain the mudras later on in the video. Okay, now activities passive. So they are easily suggestible. You can suggest something to Punarvasu and they will listen. Like I said, that Sattvic people are mostly open to suggestions, mostly open to collaborations, open to understanding someone, okay? Because they truly don't want to create any more problems than we already have in this manifested world. So this is a merchant class. Punarvasu is a merchant class that is of Deva Guna, that is godly. So being ethical is very important for Punarvasu. The Jupiterian significations, Jupiter, unless of course tremendously ill afflicted, uh, always brings about strong morals, strong morals and strong ethical compass. Now, element is water. So all kinds of kapha imbalances can occur. Dosha is vata though. I did explain to you, dosha is vata, the Ayurvedic dosha. So all kinds of, wind related problems can occur. But since this is water, the element of this nakshatra is water, kapha imbalances combined with vata imbalances can be seen. Directionality is north. So, when you're propitiating Punarvasu, the direction to face is north, right? Now, sound, I explained to you how in India we name children by the nakshatra. Nakshatra is the Janam nakshatra, is the birth moon nakshatra. So if you have your birth moon in Punarvasu, or say you have a child tomorrow who has birth moon in Punarvasu, then the best seed sounds for them is K, Ko, Ha, He. So Hila, Ha, like I can't think of a name with Ha, but Ko, like in Bengali we have a name like Kokon, like Ko, K, like KK, or Caleb, or Caleb, yeah, Caleb. Come to think about it, I have a client called Caleb, and he has his moon nakshatra in Punarvasu. So we were talking about the seed sounds, and he was like, Caleb. I was like, without knowing about it, without his mom knowing his seed sound of his nakshatra, Nakshatra, because he's in America. He had no exposure to Vedic astrology. So he was like, look, my name's Caleb. So it's like, wow, it's amazing how things work, right? Now, the Western star is Castor and Pollux, the two Gemini twins, Castor and Pollux. Alpha in Beta Geminorum. Alpha, Beta Geminorum, okay? Castor and Pollux are the two twins. We know that story, right? The symbol of Punarvasu is bow and arrow, and the alternate symbol is a house or an abode. And this has some real profound significations, if you ask me. The deity is Aditi. Aditi, I told you, is the mother of the 12 Adityas, or the 12 cosmic principles that I'll get to. Now, when you think of Punarvasu, think of, like, close your eyes and think of a mixture of two similar greasy substances. Okay, what can you think of? Oil and clarified butter or ghee. Can you imagine mixing oil and ghee and then closing your eyes and feeling them in your hand? You know, which one is the oil, which one is the clarified butter? You don't know, right? Now, this is Punarvasu, okay, bringing together the contradictory, bringing together the polarities, and the two who are, and again, when you think of Castor and Pollux and you think of Punarvasu, the meaning, the underlying symbolism is the two who are good and prosperous again. Now, the star of revival. So, prosperous again. Remember, this is a key component of Punarvasu energy, is to try and try and try again till you succeed. And succeed you shall, because that is the star of revival. That is what it is. Now, when we think about Punarvasu, who is the poster child of Punarvasu? It is none other than Lord Sri Ramachandra of Ayodhya. Yes, Lord Rama of Ayodhya had his moon in Punarvasu, and he is the poster child of Punarvasu. Who else? And ancient sages believed that more male heirs are produced in Punarvasu. Now, believe me when I say this, many people contact me to know how to have more male heirs. They want more boys, okay? Because we have grown up in a patriarchal society where women have been treated as, almost as cattle. Here you marry this, you take the dowry and you get married. So women, not being educated, having to go through childbirth, not having equal opportunities, it was not very desirous to have a woman or have a daughter, right? So the thing is that even today, people contact me asking me, can you please help me with having a male heir? Okay, oftentimes I do try to help them. In the beginning, it used to really anger me and upset me, but then I realized that it is possibly important to some people, and who am I to judge, right? So the thing is that if you want a male heir, it would be good if the conception is done under the moon in Punarvasu Nakshatra. Okay, so the possibilities of you having more sons is emphasized. Okay, and Sri Krishna also had Balarama. Okay, and Balarama was like that. Okay, he had his sister Subhadra, but he was really, really close to his friend Sudama, Krishna. So when we think about Krishna and we think about the energy of Punarvasu, when we think of, sorry, not Krishna, Rama, and we think about the energy of Punarvasu, we can slowly start to see that, all the conjugal problems that Ramachandra had with Sita Devi, all of that can come to haunt a Punarvasu native. Marriages are not happy. Okay, with moon, okay, forget that afflicted moon. If you have your birth moon in Punarvasu, if it's afflicted, forget that. Even if it's a well-placed moon in Punarvasu, there can be complications in your married life. You're somehow just not understood by your family. Okay? Now, all conjugal hardships and also the apparent contradiction in Sri Rama's characters in Sri Rama's character is seen here, right? When you think about Sri Rama, he was so righteous. He left Ayodhya because of Kaikeyi and how she took the boon from Dasharath, and he left. His wife decided to follow him. 14 years of rigorous sannyas and wandering on the foot, not being able to stay anywhere, and then of course the last year was where they'll have to be completely disguised. They cannot be discovered. If they are, then the whole thing goes kaput, right? So Sita left with him without a thought. Like, you are going for 14 years, I'm going to go with you, right? So did Lakshman. But when all the Ravana chapter happened, and he rescued Sita, he came back to Ayodhya, and then one day a dhobi, who is a washerman, comes into his court and says that how can you take Sita back? How can you be so sure of a virtue, of a purity, as if our virtue, the feminine virtue and feminine purity, lies down there, as if, right? But that is what we have been taught. So we see a sort of a patriarchal dialectic coming forth in Punarvasu. Okay, it's very interesting to observe this. This is what's happening. Adhobi comes and says, how do you take Sita back? I mean, she's lived for so long with Ravana the demon. How do you know she's not been defiled? Right? And Rama, without a thought, uh, asks Sita to abdicate her throne and to leave the kingdom. And so Lakshman takes her and drops her to the outskirts where she's pregnant, where she's supposed to live her life just the way, without any help from anyone. So I mean, can you imagine? Rama abandons Sita just like that because he feels that, oh, now I'm the king, and I have to be there for my subjects. But why did Rama not abdicate his own throne? Why did he not follow Sita to the forest like he should have? Like I would have. Like I'm sure you would have too. So this apparent contradiction, of Rama's character, many people say that, okay, Valmiki, the ancient writer, did not pen down these later stories that were later on added. But whatever it is, this apparent contradiction can be seen in Punarvasu. You hold your righteousness so high, and then suddenly, because of something you think is virtuous, you just let everything go. You let very personal relationships go, right? So see again how this motif plays out. This is very interesting because Punarvasu is predominantly patriarchal in its narrative. And it's important to deconstruct this because it gives us a clean way to move forward. So we identify from the old scriptures how to work our way through the truths. Now, Rama's abandonment of Sita, right? This leaves a sort of a wound in all of our heart, a gaping wound. And Punarvasu people can do that to their close friends and family just because they think something is virtuous. They think something they need to stand for, and they will abandon their close ones. Now when we think of Punar plus Vasu, makes Punarvasu, Punar is renewal. Vasu is a ray of light. Now, when I introduced it this way, this video, so go back if you want to. This is the Punarvasu, is the return of light after the storm of Ardra, after Rahu's electrical storm in Ardra, after Shiva's howling, Rudra's howling in Ardra, comes the renewal of light and return to sanity. The 12 Adityas are born here, right? From the womb of Aditi, the great cosmic mother, right? At the very beginning, Earth was barren, right? Earth was absolutely barren. And Aditi, the great mother, she desired, may I produce herbs and flowers and plants and trees. Okay, so we see the great goddess as Shakambhari, as Annapurna. In the Rig Veda, the name of Aditi is mentioned 80 times. So if you propitiate Aditi correctly, facing north with the correct mantra, and if you propitiate Punarvasu, then you will always have riches, food, progeny, and abundance. Okay, so that's something. Now, the 12 Adityas correspond to 12 solar months. The solar clock, tuck, 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 the 12 solar months, right? And represent different fundamental principles and attributes of social life. The first Aditya is Ansh. Ansh means due share. The second Aditya is Aryaman. Aryaman is noble, someone of noble mind, Aryaman. The third Aditya is Bhaga. Bhaga is due in inheritance. What is due to you? You know, in Bengali we say, Tamar Bhagir Jinish. That means this is my share. Due share. Dhatri, ritual skill. Twashtar, which means skill in crafting. Mitra, friendship, not to be confused with Mithra. Mithra, the solar god. This is Mitra. Mitra is friendship. Okay? We say Mitra to a friend. In Hindi, we say Mere Mitra hai. That means he's my friend. Pushan or Ravi, the principle of prosperity. We have Savitur or Parjanya, power of word. We have Surya or Vivashwan, social law. Varuna, fate. Vamana, cosmic law. And Indra being the oldest of the Adityas and the most, the leader of the Adityas, right, is Indra. Indra himself is a fascinating character, and a lot of esoteric truths can be expounded on that. I'll get to it. Although Rama is the poster child of Punarvasu, the name of Elon Musk needs to be mentioned. If you have not watched my video on the astrology of Elon Musk, please do, because I really break it down for you and explain to you how important Elon Musk is for our generation and many generations beyond. Elon's Mercury is in Punarvasu Pada 1. Okay, Pada 1 of Punarvasu is what? Aries Navamsa, ruled by Mars. Now listen to some of the significations. Movable, adventurous, pioneering strange things. If they fail, success is guaranteed if they persevere. So you see how with Elon Musk, he has experienced repeated failures. Problems with this, problems with the car model, problems with, cryptocurrency, this, that. But he keeps on trying. And that is Punarvasu. If you keep on trying, you are bound to succeed. Right? The natives are technocrats, and I promise you that many people in Silicon Valley have prominent placements in Punarvasu. Okay, prominent placements. Love of tech, love of computers, IT, IT people. Very good with languages. Mostly Punarvasu natives are very good with languages. Okay, well educated and prosperous people. It's a benefic nakshatra after all. Jupiter, the great benefic, the guru, he gives his Devik Shakti, he gives his sattvic energy here, love of travel. But remember, as an arrow must return to the quiver, the Punarvasu native must come back home. After his travels, after everything, he has to come back home. For home is super important to Punarvasu natives. Super important. They can wander, they can travel far and wide, but home, the feeling that someone is there, someone is waiting for me, that is important. And again, the marital, the conjugal disparities, the disharmony, yet they need to feel someone is at home, someone is waiting, someone wants them to come home. Right now, according to Varahamihira, moon in Punarvasu makes one easily contented. Rama easily contented. His stepmother told his father Dashrath that no, why should Rama succeed the throne? Why not Bharata, my son? So he was like, no, he was happy. He was like, okay, I'll give up my throne to him. Right, contented, easily contented. Um, Self-controlled. We know about Rama's self-control. We know how when Surpanakha, she assumed the form of a beautiful maiden, and she tried to make a pass at Lord Rama, and Lord Rama was like, no way, I'm not gonna, because he had taken the oath of monogamy, which is very rare actually, because kings back then, Kshatriya kings, did have multiple wives. But Rama had taken the oath of monogamy, to marry only one woman. So he was this self-control that I'm speaking about. We can see that in Rama. Now, Varahamihira says slow-witted. One of the significations of moon in Punarvasu is being slow-witted. Not a quick wit about it, okay? It's a slow witted. You can be convinced of anything. A washerman comes to your court and says, throw out your wife because she's not pure, she's not virtuous, and you do that, right? Fortunate and of good character, right? So this kind of describes Lord Rama, okay? Interesting. Also, some of this can describe Elon Musk, not the slow-witted part, though. Now, Aditi is described 80 times in the Rig Veda, as I mentioned. She birthed the 12 zodiacal spirits. Okay, the 12 zodiacal spirits are the 12 Adityas. Okay, and they spun the cosmic matrix. They spun and created all the heavenly bodies. Okay, so all the planets, all the stars like Arcturus, constellations, all the quasars, the pulsars, all of that was created by these 12 zodiacal spirits who started to spin the matrix and created these heavenly bodies. Now, when you think of Aditi, think of her as a female Brahma. Okay, and she's associated with space, akasha, space, deep dark space, and also she's associated with mystical speech or vak. Like Uchishta Ganpati's myth I explained. I said how Uchishta Ganpati births Neela Saraswati and then he is born again from Neela Saraswati. And this is the same myth that is carried on in the Rig Veda. For Aditi births Daksha and then mates with him and is born again through him. Right? Now, Helena Petrovna Blavatsky or the Theosophists say that this is a symbolism of the eternal cyclical rebirth of the same divine essence. The cyclical rebirth of the same divine essence. Okay, that is why father mates with father gives birth to mother, gives birth to son, mates with son, gives birth to himself again. So this also we find in Egyptian myths, okay, where you have father mating with daughter, and also the myth of Brahma and Shatarupa or Satarupa. he becomes obsessed with his daughter. So this is nothing but a symbolism to explain the rebirth of the same divine essence, right? That's why Chishta Ganapati, what is left over, the same is left over. Time and again, time and again. Creation does not diminish the creator in any way. I mean, no matter how many videos I sit down and I make, in no way will they diminish me. I'm not going to be spent. Although I say, oh my God, I'm spent trying to make these videos. But still, I'm me. These are just my creations. As I said, that the use of mudras can be very effective to connect to Aditi. You can call her the Great Mother, you can call her Nut, you can call her Isis, you can call her Demeter, you can call her Durga, you can call her Kali, you can call her anything, okay? But this is the Prithvi Mudra. So when the moon is in Punarvasu, you begin this spiritual practice. So you sit in Padmasana and you sit like this, with the Prithvi Mudra. For 3 days, I don't mean sit for 3 days, I mean 20 minutes for 3 days. Prithvi Mudra, where you sit and you visualize what you want from life: abundance, riches, progeny. Of course, keep to the significators of or karakas of Jupiter. Sit with this, like this, for 3 days, 20 minutes, and call and visualize for all the things that you want. And then, after 3 days, use Akasha Mudra. Akasha Mudra. And this is the mudra of space, of Paramavyoma, of Akasha. And release all that inside that you had created, you had visualized, and release all of that to the Paramavyoma or the Akasha. So 3 days of Prithvi Mudra, where you ground your intentions, and 3 days of Akasha Mudra, where you release and expound all of that that you have created inside, and it comes back to you. The secret, but not just the secret where you think of something and it comes back, but really explaining to you why using mudras, because Punarvasu rules fingers, and connecting to the goddess, because the goddess is also the earth as well as Akasha. Aditi is Akasha, Paramavyoma. So see how scientific it is. Using Akasha Mudra, Prithvi Mudra, using Akasha Mudra, you manifest Jupiter significations when the moon moves into Punarvasu. Astrology is simple, very simple. Okay, there's nothing complex about it. It's all inside of us. It's all within us. Just keeps coming. I have not gone to any astrology school. I have not learned from anyone. It's just inside. Just everything, and what's inside of me is inside of you. So done the meditation for Punarvasu. Now this is very good for this Akasha Mudra, Prithvi Mudra and Akasha Mudra is a very good practice for writers, philosophers, poets, politicians, strategists, builders, anyone who also actually wants to become more moral, develop more of the moralistic compass. This is the practice. You can email me if you want more clarity on that. The energy of Punarvasu is deeply maternal. So if you're a Punarvasu native and you're not feeling maternal and you want to destroy, you want to, you hate, it's not the right way to go. Develop that maternal side of you. It's one of the best remedies for Punarvasu natives, believe me. Just be like Aditi, the divine mother who created the 12 zodiacal spirits, the 12 Adityas, who spun the cosmic matrix and created everything visible and invisible, including dark energy and dark matter. Punarvasu natives have good stature, good height, good height, oval face. However, they are prone to obesity at later stages in life. Prone to obesity. Now, something about Punarvasu natives, they tend to get into intellectual debates. They tend to get into all these kinds of intellectual arguments and oratorial fireworks to display their intellect, to display their IQ, to display their EQ. They're like, look at me, I'm intelligent, look at me. And they're going to get into all kinds of disputes with people over this. However, if you are a Punarvasu native and you're looking to form a partnership, a business partnership or business partnership deed or deal with someone, think again. Because partnerships don't work very well for Punarvasu natives. So yeah, it is better to go alone. Because your ethical compass and their understanding of morality is not going to be the same. So, it's best if you just walk the path solo. Now, how do you interpret any Graha in Punarvasu? Graha is planet. First things first, look to Jupiter. Why? Because Jupiter is the lord of Punarvasu, right? And then check him in the natal chart. Of course, I'm not talking about the D9 chart or anything. I'm just talking about your Janam Nakshatra. That is your moon sign chart. Okay, now you look at, you can also look at your ascendant chart, right? No, no, it's private property. I'm not allowed to go there. Uh, okay, now you have to also check the sign, the lord, of course, of the sign he's placed in. So say for instance, you've got Jupiter in Satavisha. Satavisha is ruled by Rahu. So you have to look at Rahu. Okay, and that is how you interpret any Graha in Punarvasu. Very simplistically, look to Jupiter and look to where Jupiter is placed and look to the lord of that sign or lord of that nakshatra. Okay, both, if you look at both, it gives you more layers. Now, it is said in Ravana Samhita, Ravana was a great astrologer, by the way, and he wrote many astrological books. I wonder if he had his son in Punarvasu. If Saturn aspects Sun in Punarvasu, then native will do foul or impure work. Be cruel to subordinates, you don't want a boss like that, but be dedicated to his work. Now, very interesting example here is this SS officer, German SS officer called Gottlieb Berger. Okay, and he was one of Himmler's foremost racial experts. Those experts on racial selection. He was one of his foremost racial experts. He tortured numerous men, numerous women. His sun is in Punarvasu, in the 11th house. Great, sun in the 11th house, great. But is aspected by that Saturn, malefic Saturn, from that second house. So we can see how he tortured, maimed, killed, all in the name of racial selection. Considered these people to be subordinates. He was dedicated to his work like crazy, but he tortured people. See how shades of layers and layers of meaning come out. Now another person is another serial killer, American serial killer called Gerald Gallagher. He tortured and raped and murdered over 10 women with his wife, Catherine or Carolyn or something like that. Now he had that Saturn and that Sun in the same house, 12th house. Different nakshatras, but the Saturn is 3 degrees from the Sun, completely kumbha Saturn firstly, and that Saturn being a malefic is causing harm to that Sun. And it was his 12th house. 12th house signification, sex, torture, imprisonment. So we see how this played out in this, what was his name? Gerald Gallagher. and he went on his deadly killing spree during his Shani Darsha. Now, if the sun, this is what I already told you about astrology and sun in Punarvasu Pada 1. If the sun is in the first Navamsa, Aries Navamsa, native is highly educated and a writer of astrology books and extremely prosperous. I'm not going to go into the names, but like 6, 7, 8, like tons of people, like proper academic astrologers, professional academic astrologers from big institutions. So many of them have that sun in Pada 1 of Punarvasu. Well aspected, not ill aspected. Okay. Now, let's break down the Navamsas a bit. Aries Navamsa. What can you expect if you have, say, your moon in Aries Navamsa? Remember, moon in that Mars ruled, okay? Movement, okay? Yes, of course, Jupiter is very important in Korea. Looks the 10th house, Lord of the 10th, okay? What is the Lord of the 10th doing? What nakshatra, what, lot. Look to the 10th. Also look to the 6th, because that 6th is, of course, your daily work. 10th is social recognition. And also, of course, you've got to look to the 8th, I would say, because it's other people's money, and how you're going to deal with it if you're going to go into a business. So, a lot in first house, of course. First house tells you pretty much everything you need to know. That's why the Hellenistic astrologers called it the helm of the natal chart. So in the Aries Navamsa, we have movement, we have adventure, we have that pioneering spirit, and we have friendships, and of course, astrology books with Sun being in Padawan. Now the Taurus Navamsa, what can we expect? Materialism, rampant materialism. Venus rule Navamsa, travel, but then again longing to come back home, and fixedness. Okay, a fixedness, because Taurus is a fixed sign, stubborn, yeah. And that holier, I am holier than thou, holier than thou, right? And the Gemini Navamsa gives imagination, mental focus, concentration, interest in science, interest in debating, right? Pretty interesting. And that Cancer Navamsa gives maternity, motherly instincts, nurturing other people, social work, expansion, and nurturing. Because whenever you think about Cancer, you've always got to think about that expansion aspect. And if you have that moon in the Cancer Navamsa, you're like, wow, the exaltation of Jupiter, and Jupiter rules Punarvasu. And that moon would also fall in the Navamsa of the moon. Right? Unless it's, of course, aspected by a malefic or blah 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 and 100 other things. Right? Now, the form of Ganapati to worship, if you are a Punarvasu native, is Lakshmi Ganapati. Lakshmi Ganapati has 8 arms, is white in complexion, is the 12th form of Ganapati, by the way. He has 2 consorts, Siddhi and Buddhi, on both of his thighs. Siddhi means achievement, Buddhi means intellect or wisdom. Okay, Buddh is Mercury as well. Buddh, the planet Buddh is Mercury. Mercury is intelligence. And he has 8 hands. Lakshmi Ganapati has 8 hands. Again, that infinity, 8, 8, 8. If you propitiate Lakshmi Ganapati and you're a Punarvasu native, what can you expect? You can expect to bounce back from any difficult condition. It could be a difficult marriage, it could be a difficult business partnership. Anyway, you shouldn't be getting into a business partnership if you're a Punarvasu native, okay? Going solo works the best for you. Now you can bounce back. This irreversible quality of just bouncing back. You fall, you get up, fall, you get up, fall, you get up. And then you go. You just go. Right? Now, tap into the limitless inner reservoir So there's this inner sanctuary, the inner reservoir, okay, that you can tap into, inner resources. That if you propitiate Lakshmi Garpati, you can tap into that, all the deep stuff that's inside. Another thing I wanted to mention is that Punarvasu natives oftentimes have near death experiences. Something that happens to them that, sort of kills them off, and then they come back. If the Lord of the 8th and the 12th, or any planet that is, placed in the 8th and the 12th, and Punarvasu falls in the 8th or the 12th, is without a malefic influence. Okay, I'm not saying there has to be some hardcore malefic influence, because then you may not have that near death experience to come back and tell your story. So if if you have Jupiter as Lord of 8th or Lord of 12th, or if you have Punarvasu in 8th or 12th and it's not heavily afflicted, then you may have a near death experience, and you may come back from it, and you may live to tell the story and help many, many other people. Okay, that's the way it goes. And also, a lot of times I've noticed that Punarvasu natives tend to have two marriages. Especially if that seventh house lord is a malefic, okay, or that seventh house is afflicted in any way, then you can expect to have two wives or two husbands. Okay, marital happiness is not something I see with Punarvasu natives. I'm not going to, of course, disappoint you. You may be a young person watching this, hoping to connect, but remember that the connection must be deep and profound. Only then can you move beyond the conventional paradoxes that Punarvasu brings, and the apparent contradictions in character that nobody else is going to fall for. But see how astrology makes it easier to accept someone, because then you're like, okay, I understand this person is full of contradictions, because this is the energy they have. And you study it and you go deep, and then there are ways to resolve this duality, ways to come out of this duality, and then you take the necessary steps and work with that. So that was it, and I'm gonna end my Punarvasu video. It was really nice being back after ages. I had a very difficult time in the past month, in the last month, but I'm back because but I'm back because it's my birth month. So with me, I feel really good with each birthday, and I feel like I'm getting closer and closer to my divine purpose, and I wish the same for you. So don't forget to, I'll be back, Luca. I'll be back with a vengeance, and hope to do some good work. And thank you. So the thing is that I end this broadcast now, and please consider booking a reading, or please consider a donation. My PayPal is tina@tinaheals.com. I'll be back again, Luca, but I have to go. I have a video call waiting, and it's just that everything is, I need to plan my life. Yes, I have to plan my life a bit better. It just doesn't get easy. I have just I need a proper assistant, and I have all these live shows that I'm supposed to do, and all of that, a lot of classes that I have to take, and I'm just not being able to streamline my time, you know but yeah, hopefully I'll get there. And thanking all my subscribers, whoever regularly watch my videos and share my videos, and all the people sending me donations and booking readings. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Very soon I'm going to be, of course, introducing my clothing line. I've been working very hard on it, and I've had a tremendous amount of setback with the whole clothing line, because it's just, the lockdowns, and my money got caught in all of that, and the tailors left. But whatever, I won't blab about all that. Thank you, Luca. But please don't forget to book your reading. Check out my website if you haven't already. Uh, Drop me an email if you want to know more about me and the work I do. Thank you, and speak soon. Bye.